Welcome to the Popish Plot. I'm Nate.
I'm Jessica.
And I'm Mike.
And today we are here to talk about a great new blessing.
Habemus Papam, we have a pope.
We have a pope. We're here to talk about Pope Leo XIV.
Correct.
Yes. Just like every other person who either does news, Catholic stuff, or Catholic news, we found out there was a pope. Me via my kid texting me white smoke, and then finding out who
via my wife texting me white smoke.
And finding out who he was, and immediately going online to spend 5 minutes so that we are now experts in his entire life.
As is right and just. Mm-hmm. So, I was in daily mass. One of the fellows was doing the readings following along with the readings on his phone. So, of course, he's using his phone, so we got the alert, new pope.
Who this?
So then we're waiting, and then after mass, he came out on the balcony, and we found out who it really was.
Yes, it was a long wait, which I heard was because, unlike a number of previous popes, he actually wrote notes about what he wanted to say.
Yeah, prepared remarks. Well, plus, I mean, compared to the wedding feast at Cana, the gospel account is very clear that the mother of God, the mother of Jesus, is at the wedding, and then almost has an addendum. Oh, and Jesus and his disciples were there too. He's very clear with her. He's like, listen, this has nothing to do with me. My hour has not yet come. Once I start performing public miracles, this cozy little domestic relationship we have is over.
And she, of course, gave him the look that says, your hour is now, Buster.
You don't sass-mouth me. Get to work. So, I can understand, the brand new Pope Leo XIV, Robert Cardinal Prevost, just a few minutes earlier, wanting to take a couple minutes in the room of tears. I mean, they call it the room of tears. To, let's not just speak off the cuff. Let's do this. I get why he'd want a moment, a few minutes to collect himself.
Especially, although he is fluent in many languages, he only, out of the 3 languages he spoke in that one, only one would be probably one that he's just, doesn't need any, practice or anything, speaks it every day. Because, he did say some stuff in Spanish, which, having been in Peru all those years, he probably spoke a variation of Spanish. Anyone who takes Spanish class and gets told, this is what the book says, and now if you're going to Mexico, this is what you say.
He speaks excellent Peruvian Spanish. Yeah.
Probably was like, all right, what's the textbook Spanish on this?
Yeah.
And then the Italian and Latin, where he's like, I know this, but how often did he need to use it in day-to-day life?
This is a very high-pressure situation.
In fairness, English is like that, too. I mean, you go to England, you go to Ireland, Australia, New Zealand.
The difference between deep Alabama,
Georgia,
and New York City.
I will not know what level to get off of an elevator or lift in England, because apparently they start with 0 as ground and the second floor as 1.
Yeah, everything is messed up. They pronounce Z as Z. There's a lot of things going on over there. They misspell curb. So, we are the Popish Plot. So, we, of course, have to talk about the new Pope. But, that said, just automatic disclaimer, we are not experts on the man. None of us have ever met him.
I mean...
Although, it is totally possible.
We do have someone from the area that, due to their priest being out of town, and because he was an Augustinian and their thing, there's pictures of them baptizing their child, and I don't know if it was a diocese thing, if it was, my kid's school, but someone in this greater, county area is like, yeah, my kid was baptized by the Pope.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing.
He was just a random visiting priest at the time.
Well, he may have been provincial. But yeah, no. So there's a local parish, St. Matthew, which for 90 years was administered by the Augustinians. For a week, while the pastor, Father Fred Taggart, pastor at the time, this is 1999, was on retreat, and otherwise unknown, Father Bob Prevost came and filled in and did at least one baptism.
Did? Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
There's a picture.
Yeah.
Because
I also like...
the Pope has to be from someplace.
Yes, I also like how they announced his name, and it took a while for him to come out. So while I was looking through stuff, Wikipedia had already, forwarded the Cardinals thing to Pope.
Oh, you know that the editors were sitting right there.
It's like as soon as he announced his name, it's like, now Leo the 4th.
Leo the 14th, boom.
14th, yeah. Which I have to say, I do not think any pope should pick Leo, because there's already a Leo a Great, and it was the first one, so the name is taken. Like, no matter how great of a Leo you are, what are you going to do next? Be like, Leo, the second best.
The kind of okay.
So what? No Leos, no Gregorys.
Yep. It's like how no one picks Peter, because you can't beat that. Although I did hear an interesting thing about, because the main reason everyone agrees that he probably picked the name was because of Leo the 13th and his legacy of, helping, poor workers and stuff because of his time in Peru. But someone pointed out that Saint Francis had numerous people who he was friends with, including one brother who was Leo. Mm-hmm. And it was like a very close friend. So I'm like, that sounds nice. You're still never going to be the great, but still.
Well, but maybe
it works double duty.
Maybe that in itself is an act of humility. I'll never be Leo the Great because there's already a Leo the Great. I just hope to walk in his footsteps. It'll take a little while for the merchandise machine to catch up with real-time events. So we don't yet have anything specifically Pope Leo, except that we've put Leo on the throne, which is no longer vacant.
Yes.
Yeah, so...
You think they'd have it all lined up,
Well, but...
A few generic guys of different, things to be like, all right.
See, I have to disagree only because, it's tremendously wasteful whenever there's a sporting event. They will print out 2 sets of merchandise, depending on which team wins, and then the other just gets, given to the poor. It'd be really weird if you had people walking around in...
Pope Sarah.
Or Pope Parolin. Besides, it's really hard to do because they don't announce his name until just then. So you can't really prepare it in advance.
I'm just saying, you have the top ones that you think are possibly going to make it, which, again, is quite often wrong. You already digitize things, so you can just, throw it on a shirt or something.
Sure. You can do some of that, but you're still not going to be able to start until the day of. But,
yeah.
But no, totally. No, ain't no mistake. Swag is already starting to be produced. I've already seen prayer cards. More will follow.
Are they in the Cubs colors with the Pope? Because I really want the shirt that says the
Pope. No, that's the Bears colors.
Oh yes, the Bears.
Because that's something all Chicago can agree on. Chicagoans are very divided between the Cubs and the White Sox.
True, I heard he was a Sox fan.
Yeah. So when he was first announced, Wrigley Field put out, Leo the 14th. He's a Cubs fan on their famous billboard, which you can see in the Blues Brothers. But you talk to his brother, and apparently he's always been a White Sox fan because apparently, I don't know, I'm not from Chicago, the White Sox are the more working class team.
I mean, that makes sense because if you're going to wear business suits, you usually wear black socks.
Ba-doom boom. So, this is what we know. We have a pope. Praise God.
He's from Chicago.
He's from Chicago. He is a dual American-Peruvian citizen. He was born in 1955, which makes him younger than my parents, which is a little weird. I've stood in a place where he was, in a photograph. He has named himself after the Pope's Leo, especially Leo the 13th. So all of us are going to be familiarizing ourselves with his foundational document, Rerum Novarum, which is the foundation of what we call Catholic social teaching. So we should see a great revival of that. He's an Augustinian, and he's already quoted Augustine in several of his addresses. So I'd expect also a greater focus on Augustine's writings, especially the Confessions and the City of God. But he's St. Augustine. He wrote so much.
Is his City of God the one that's 5 books? Because I know there are multiple book series things, and I forgot which one he wrote and which one. Because I want to say no, just because my mom read the 5-book one, and she always picks the most heretical nonsense variation of anything you can get.
I've seen it in a single book volume, so I'm going to guess no. I mean, we have to remember, he wasn't living in Bible times. But he was only living.
Paper was expensive.
He was only living a few hundred years later. He was still a millennium before the printing press. So you didn't write. Winston Churchill type writing, Victorianism, where you just keep writing and writing and writing and writing and writing, was not possible before the printing press. So I doubt it. But, I'm not erudite. I've not read The City of God.
I have not either. Because, again, I'm fairly certain that the version my mom had is not the one by the saint.
Sure. I read at least some of Confessions, though.
Sure. Nice.
Yes. We also know that besides being from a working-class Chicago family, he has ancestors in Louisiana.
Yeah, New Orleans claims him, as they do everyone else.
It's New Orleans.
Not inappropriately, his name is Prevost.
If you're Catholic and you're American, are you sure you're not from Louisiana?
I am.
It's that or Maryland. Those are your choices.
Convert, Nate. Convert.
I mean, I'm not from either place either, but it's the fact that, the people who were escaping the horrors of Eastern Europe said, this frozen Iceland that then gets 90 degrees and 110% humidity, this makes me feel like home.
Well, the winters are fierce and the summers are fiercer. Huzzah.
But we have a nice day in fall and spring. Just one each.
We're changing the subject slightly from the Pope to Michigan, but I will say, Michiganders appreciate the 5 or 6 really beautiful days we have a year. We have 5 or 6 really perfect days, and we appreciate them. People that live in San Diego, where it's perfect all the time, they take it completely for granted. Mm-hmm. So, back to the Pope.
Yep.
There are going to be all the great Midwest jokes, because the Midwest has finally achieved a level of supremacy. It's the first time we have an American Pope, and he's a Midwesterner, which is great. Nate?
He's not from New York City.
New York City! There's already been talk of, presumably, it is a curiosity that in his 12 years in the papacy, Pope Francis never returned to his home country of Argentina.
Never?
Never.
No.
Wow.
Yeah. But he did visit the United States. Now, the United States is a larger, richer country than Argentina. So, even if an American hadn't been elected Pope, it would seem likely that at some point Pope Leo would come to the United States. But especially since he's an American, this is going to be a huge deal. And there's already been talk about all the people he could, beatify and canonize if he came to the United States. There's Blessed Stanley Rother in Oklahoma, Blessed Michael McGivney in Connecticut, Blessed Solanus Casey here in Michigan,
Woo!
Blessed James Miller in, I'm not sure where, maybe also Oklahoma. He died near Stanley Rother. I'm not sure where he was from. Mm-hmm. He could finally beatify Fulton Sheen, from Peoria, Illinois. Out in Colorado, there's I think Venerable Juliana Greeley. There's lots of folks around. So some people have charted out like a great Midwestern tour he could make. You're just making saints everywhere he goes.
That's what I do.
Or making blesseds. Obviously, saints are canonized in Rome.
But yeah, that would be a
bunch of beatifications. That'd be great.
It would be a great way to solve the debate about who's going to be the first American-born saint. That's a guy from America.
Just do several of them.
Do it all at once.
Love it. Love it.
None of them get to be the first.
Mm-hmm. Well, because I was in 2017, I was at the Beatification Mass for Blessed Solanus Casey, and that was glorious. Celebrated by Cardinal Amato, who at the time was the head of the Congregation for the Cause of the Saints. I guess that's 8 years ago now. Time flies, but it'd be cool. It'd be super cool. So, what I've been most pleased by, obviously we're when we're filming this, we're not quite a week in, is there just seems to be a lot of joy. Now, it's hard to remember back to, back 12 years ago, to exactly how everyone was feeling around the election of Pope Francis.
I was feeling that my radio needed to stop cutting out because I was waiting for the kids to get out of school when they were announcing the Pope, and it was one of those things where, it was just barely, and you move, and you gotta stick your hand up. Just tell me who the Pope is.
But just, right now, I mean, we're still obviously in a bit of a honeymoon phase, but everybody just seems happy. Now, this is partially because I'm an American. I know lots of Americans, and it's great to have the first American Pope. But his speeches so far are beautiful. His first remarks out on the loggia were prepared, so he's not going to be saying as many things off the cuff.
And I watched a video, and it was British interviewers, but they were talking about how it's during the time of Francis, they could tell with what great joy and love and stuff he was saying stuff, but everything had to go through a translator. And outside of the church, the lingua franca is English. So as only for the most part English speaking people, we're extra into English, but even in places around the world, a large percent of people know English as a language.
Yep.
Not that many know Latin. There's some people who know Italian. Spanish, the fact that you speak Spanish is good. That helps a lot of people. But it's different when they actually say stuff and you don't need to wait for the translator. You don't have to be like, all right, I think this means this.
Yeah.
It's not like us when we're discussing whatever saint where it's like, all right, my 1 year of Spanish says this means the saint of the door.
I just think of Star Trek 6. Don't wait for the translation. Answer me now.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of people where he's able to speak a language that, even if it's not their primary language, it's a language that they're somewhat fluent in.
Amen. Well, and just so, we would just ask all of you to please keep Pope Leo in your prayers. He is the shepherd, he is the pastor of the entire world. He has the weight of 8 billion souls on his shoulders. Now, he doesn't have to carry that alone. There's still the College of Cardinals, there's all the bishops, all the priests, all the laity in communion with him. But still, it is a tremendous responsibility that have been placed on his shoulders.
And he'd only been like a cardinal for like a year and a half.
He'd only been a bishop for a decade. Yeah, he wasn't one of these guys who's a career bishop.
Like, I was explaining to a coworker, and they're like, they knew nothing about the thing. So they're like, wait. First, they, of course, were concerned about how old he was, because they don't get the fact that, once you get up to the hierarchy, it takes a while.
Yeah,
and then they're like,
in Pope terms, he's not old.
No, in Pope terms, he's young. He's younger than your parents. I know that.
Pope Benedict was 78 when he was elected Pope. Pope Francis was 76 when he was elected Pope. Pope John Paul at 58 is extremely unusual. John Paul I was 65.
Yes. And then she's like, wait. He was like cardinal for a year beforehand? I'm like, yep.
Yeah, year and a half. Yeah, sometime in 2023. Yep.
And then she's like, wait, his name is Bob from Chicago.
Bob from Chicago is now Pope. This is a glorious thing. We had many saintly popes in the 455 years leading up to St. John Paul the Great, who were all Italian, but there's just something different about knowing that Bob from Chicago can become Pope. It's not just guys who were born in some little village that I can't pronounce.
Nate's still got a chance.
Mathematically, you're not ineligible. So just keep him in your prayers, because just like all the popes, he's a man upon whom God has placed a tremendous responsibility. He needs to be lifted up in our prayers. Mm-hmm. And let's take the man at his word. His motto is, "In the one, we are one." So let's try to be one united church, as the Lord intends.
Which means, do not put ketchup on your hot dog if you're an adult. I'll let kids, slide on that. Chicago dog is quite clear.
What if it's like a flavored ketchup?
I'll give you this. I'll give you this. No ketchup on bratwurst.
No, that's sacrilege.
But I'm not going to eat a full Chicago dog. It's like 3 salads.
I mean, I'm concerned about the radioactive relish.
Yeah.
Also, I don't like relish. Once you chop up a pickle too small, it gets slimy.
Plus the fact that it has both a pickle spear and relish. That's so much pickle.
I'm not convinced that the relish is pickle.
Fair enough. So,
although, does this make a Detroit-style pizza the Eastern Orthodox of pizzas? Now that Chicago is the one and true pizza,
or is it the New York, which is basically the opposite of a Chicago pizza? Chicago pizza is this thick. A New York pizza is paper thin.
No. New York pizza is now funding Protestant.
All right, so we'll do a bonus episode on papal pizzas. But until then, list your feelings about... Well, please, list your thoughts, not your feelings, about Pope Leo XIV down in the comments.
Maybe describe your favorite meme about him. There have been so many. Mm-hmm. It's really reintroduced the discussion on Malort, which is going to result in me not being the #1 seller of Malort at my workplace.
Oh.
I sell it with, this is disgusting, you'll hate it.
Yeah.
It's a good selling
point. I know,
point.
but the Chicagoans love it. It's perverse.
It's fine. It's fine.
I also point out the fact that
you can tell we're friends because you made me drink Malort and we're still friends.
You know that nail polish...
Whoa.
We offered you Malort. We did not hold your nose down.
I have never made you drink anything.
Induced me into drinking Malort.
I may have encouraged you. I may have provided the opportunity.
I mean, when I discuss Malort, I point out that I had a friend who had the bitter nail polish that their parents put on their nails because they bit their nails, and she put it on me, and I kept licking my nail.
Mm-hmm. So you built up a tolerance over years.
I like bitter.
So give this episode a like, subscribe to our channel to be alerted the next time we discuss Malort, pizza, and or the Pope.
And until next time, remember to live your faith.
Love your faith.
Share that love.